Hello and welcome to card number 4 with Julia for World Cardmaking Day. So this is the fourth card I made. Just giving you a look on the outside and the inside. So for this one, you're going to need a top fold A2 size black base. The black base is optional. You could also use a white base and mat your panel with black if you'd like. You're also going to need the paper that you have left, the largest piece, which is that leather looking paper. And then these are the ephemera and sentiments that you're going to need as well. So grab those out and get ready. Now this little panel here, because I'm doing a black base card, I'm going to put in a little piece of white that I can add my inside written sentiment. So I'm going to take that piece of paper that I have left there, that pattern paper, and I'm going to emboss it. And I'm going to use the Soaring 3D embossing powder designed by Dina Wakley and made by Spellbinders. I'm going to give my pattern paper a light misting of water on both sides. This will just help that paper stay intact. It is a 3D embossing folder, and because this is a thinner pattern paper, I don't want it to tear. So I'm going to take that damp piece of paper and I'm going to put it in my 3D embossing folder. Now, I didn't take the time to make sure my pattern paper was lined up. So if you took a quick look at that there, you'll notice that my paper was slightly askew. So don't be a Julia. Take some time to look at your pattern paper when it's in your embossing folder before you emboss it and make sure it's straight. But for the sake of this video, I am just going to go with it. Okay, there we go. And we have our embossed pattern paper. You do want to hit this with a bit of heat to make sure that it is completely dry before we move on to the next step. And there we go. Now we want to take I'm taking some wax here. This is the rich copper wax from Prima. This step is completely optional. You do not have to use wax. You could also do this technique with some ink if you'd like. So I'm just going to grab a 6x6 palette paper pad to put my wax on. So I'm just going to squeeze some out here on that palette paper. And then I'm going to apply it with my finger, but you could also use a stencil brush if you didn't want to get the wax on your finger. I just like using my finger because your body temperature makes it really easy to apply that wax. So you can see I'm just gently wiping this across that raised image. And I will give you a close-up look here in just a moment. I am going to show you another option on how to apply the wax if you didn't want to use your finger. So like I said, I just keep going back to my palette paper, picking up a little bit more wax, and then just gently rubbing it over the paper. And then you can see there what that looks like. Absolutely love doing this. It's just such a fun way to add just a different kind of look to your embossed paper. Now, because I'm using a darker pattern paper underneath, it really does make this look amazing. Okay, so I'm just grabbing a bristle stencil brush that I have in my pack. I think this might be an old Prima one. So this is another way you can do this. You can pick up some wax on your brush, and then you can just go over and apply it. Now, it does apply a lot darker when you use a stencil brush. You can see how much darker it went on. I didn't do this on my original card. On my original one, I did only use my finger, so it is going to give it a different look. But again, equally gorgeous. Just another option for those of you who don't want to use your finger to apply it. So again, I'm going in and now I'm using both. So you can put it on with your finger and then you can spread it with the stencil brush. So again, there are options and different ways of applying the wax. I just wanted people to know that you didn't just have just the one option to use your finger. You can also use a stencil brush. Now, the color that I'm using on this card, this is called Rich Copper. The on the original card that I did as my sample that I showed first, I used another color. It was rose gold. So it is a little bit different. And when I show you both cards side to side, you can definitely see the difference. Both of them I really like. So this one is Rich Copper. It just gives you a much more deeper, I think, look to it, where the rose gold almost matches the paper. So it kind of just gives you not quite as coppery of a feel like this does. But again, just a fun technique just to use on an embossed pattern paper. So here we go, just finishing that up, and look at that. That is stunning. Now, before you move on to your next part, and I didn't record this, you do want to hit this with a bit of heat and just dry that wax. Now, ideally, you would want to let it sit for a little while and let that wax cure. I'm not going to do this in this video, but you'll probably want to do that, is let it sit for 24 hours and let that wax cure, or hit it with a bit of heat. Okay, now you are going to take this piece of paper and you are going to trim it down by 5 1/4 inches by 4 inches. So 5 1/4 by 4. So here I am cutting it down to 5 1/4 inches. Save those pieces that we're cutting off because we will use those. And now I'm cutting it down to 4 inches. There we go. Now the blade in my trimmer is getting a little dull, and I don't have a replacement one here at home. So I did have to go in with a sanding block and just clean up those edges a little bit. But that's a me issue. I need to get a new blade for my trimmer. So there you go. You can see me coming in with a sanding block and just cleaning up those edges just a little bit. Okay, so I brought in my top fold A2 size black black card base, and I'm going to use some strong double-sided adhesive here, and I am going to then put this on to my card base. There we go, just getting that centered on there. Look how gorgeous that is. It just pops off that black. Okay, now I'm going to bring in my ephemera. Our little steampunk bird is going to go on the front. Our sentiment is going to go on the front. And then we've got one gear left out of my sentiments that I chose. And we are going to take that little gear piece and we are going to cut it in half. There you go. And we're going to grab some 3D foam. I'm almost out. I got to get more of that too. So I'm going to put a couple of strips of the 3D foam on the bird that you see here. So I'm just going to take some pieces, apply that there. And you are also going to want to apply some 3D foam to the back of that sentiment piece as well. Okay, now it's time to assemble our front focal point on our card. So I'm going to stick the bird down. I'm not going to press it down too hard yet because I do need to tuck some of those gears down. Now I am going to use some strong double-sided adhesive tape runner on the back here. And just a word of caution, if you did not let your waxed emboss piece cure overnight, your things are going to not stick really well at the beginning. So I wouldn't make this card and give it to somebody right away. I would make sure that I leave lots of time for that wax to cure and for my pieces to stick down. So you can see me pressing down really, really hard just to make sure that those are completely stuck down on that embossed piece. And now I'm going to remove that backing paper off of the 3D foam from my sentiment and stick that down as well. And you're going to want to press hard and make sure that these are stuck down really well. And there we go. The front of card number 4 is now done. Okay, here are both of our cards side by side. So you can see the one on the left that was using the rose gold, and the one on the right is using the rich copper. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to finish the insides of the cards that we did. So that die cut panel piece that you see on the inside, I used my Prism Studio nesting rectangles, and the size of the die used to cut that white panel is 2 3/4 by 4. Now, like I said, you could also put your embossed piece and just mat that on black and put it on a white base as another option. Now I'm taking some of our leftover pieces, and this was one of the leftover pieces from our embossed panel that we did. So I am just doing just a little piece to go along the bottom there. So you can see I've done a bit of a fishtail at one end, and I'm just going to layer that steampunk cat over. So I'm using some double-sided tape, and I'm going to center that on the inside of my card base. This is where I can stamp a sentiment or write my greeting in there. And then I'm just going to take my little fishtail banner, some double-sided adhesive, and that is just going to go along the bottom of that white die cut piece. And again, just using that strong double-sided adhesive on the back of that ephemera piece and stick that down. And there we go. The inside, the inside of our card is done. Okay, we're going to go back. This was card number 2. We're going to assemble the inside of this. So remember that wolf ephemera, you're going to grab that. Have a couple of the gears, grab that. And then out of our little stash of scraps that we have left, I'm going to grab a piece of the gear paper and a small piece of that wood paper. Now the pieces you have left might be slightly different than mine, so I'm not going to give you any measurements here. You're just going to use your creative judgment, and you're just going to cut a couple of little pieces that you can layer at the bottom of the inside of your card to be a nice foundation to put that wolf ephemera down. So I'm just cutting a couple of pieces. I've got those there. And I know what I'm doing. I'm cleaning up the edges because, again, I have a dull blade in my trimmer. Okay, so those are going to layer down at the bottom, that wolf piece on top. And then I'm going to be using those gears underneath the wolf. So I'm just doing some double-sided adhesive. One is going to, this wood piece, it's going to go off the right-hand side of the card, and then I'll trim that piece off. I am going to leave a little bit of the border at the bottom so you can see some of that white card base coming through. Again, using that double-sided adhesive. This is a really easy way to use up some of your scraps. At the very end, I'm just going to show you what I had left. I don't have much left out of my pattern paper, and I'll show you that. So there's our wolf. He will go over top of those. And one of these gears, I am going to trim it in half. And you will see where I will be tucking those under this wolf piece. So I am using double-sided adhesive. I am using double-sided adhesive, and I'm going to lay the wolf down, but I'm not going to press him down yet. I'm just going to lay him there until I tuck these pieces underneath, and then I will press everything down at the same time. So one full gear under the top right, and then these two half pieces are going to go kind of on the top left and on the bottom right there. So you can see me just getting those all tucked in under there. And now I'm going to press that wolf down. Just make sure he's in the right spot. And there we go. The inside of card number 2 is all done. Look at that. These are coming together so beautifully. Okay, now it's time to go back to the first card that we did and finish the inside of this one. So you should have left, I asked you to tuck these inside your cards, that beautiful little fairy, and you're going to grab 2 more pieces of scrap paper. And again, I'm not going to give you sizes on these because what you have left may be different than what I have left. So just use your creative judgment. And we're going to cut 2 strips. The gear paper, I cut a little bit wider than the wood grain paper that I have there. The wood grain is thinner. The gear one is wider, and I'm going to do fishtail ends on these. And I'm probably going to go in and use my sanding block to clean up those edges. And this is a reminder for me to go in and buy myself a new blade for my trimmer. Okay, so I'm going to cut a couple of fishtail ends on this. And I'm just going to cut up to the center and then 2 angle cuts towards that. And we've got an easy fishtail blade, or a fishtail end. And then that fits perfect. And then the thinner one, I'm going to cut at a shorter length. So it's a shorter, it's a more narrow width and a shorter length. And again, we're going to do another fishtail end on this one. And we will also slightly layer this over top of that gear piece. And there you go. You can see me lining those up. I am going to use that strong double-sided adhesive on the back of both of these pieces. And I think it looks like I was going to use glue, but then I think I switched over to the double-sided adhesive. But you can use either. Yep, I changed my mind. I don't know why, but I did. So double-sided adhesive on the back of both of these fishtail banners. And just make sure that it is not touching your crease line there, your fold line, because your card won't close very easily. And then some more double-sided adhesive on the back of that one. Slightly overlapping, but at the top. They are lined up, and then some more double-sided adhesive behind my little fairy there. And she's going to go on near the top of those. And that is the inside of all 4 cards done. And then this was card number 3 that we did. We did the inside of that one while we were doing the card. I'm just going through and showing you all 4 cards that you made. You made it. You did it. You made it through my 4 cards for World Card Making Day. I want to thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoy all the rest of the videos from the rest of our creative team. Here I am gathering up the little bits of pieces that I have left of my paper. Not a whole lot left there, but you know what? I could probably use that and make a little tag or something. Thank you for joining me. Bye.